down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Hey, what's up, Savvy investors? This is your friend. Oh, man, I got to get a better intro than the friend. Well, speaking of friends, yep, I'm talking about friends. I'm not talking about Facebook. I'm talking about your friendly banker. So I have a lot of rounds, I guess, boxing rounds, dancing rounds, friends around banking, bankers, banking, bank. Well, everything is going good. I've had some wonderful mentors. I've actually had some intense mentoring from retired bankers and a current banker, and it has been a blessing in my life, almost to the degree of I have been taken care of, fortunate, if you would say. Not because of the banker friendship, but just knowing what to say, when to say it, how to say it, and understand how the banking industry works in real estate investing. I'm not talking about regular banking. I'm talking about real estate investing. And that's what you should be thinking about if you're tuning in to the Savvy Radio Show. Steve Van Kalmber here, the Savvy Landlord. And so the other day, I get a renewal notice in the mail from a friendly banker. And I've had this loan. It's a line of credit for a long time with this bank, and it's collateralized. And so let me just give you some perspective. It is $160,000 line of credit, backed on, I'm trying to think of how many houses is it backed on. 4 or 5 houses or so, well worth over $360,000. So I'm only borrowing less than 50% on the line of credit. And so going every year, I got to deal with this bank. In general, you got to turn in your tax returns, your financials. That's normal basic stuff that you should already know about. But which is interesting, some banks charge you a fee for a renewal. Interesting. I got stung on that before, and that's why I was talking about friends. But you can work with bankers on fees, and I'm going to cover a couple points on, no pun intended, points, origination fee. But what really irritated me just the other day, and this is why this is going down so unrehearsed, unwritten, just throwing it up on the radio show, because I'm just kind of furious, and the title of this is called Bankers Are Hustlers. So I get a call from a banker, and he's like, hey, it's time to renew your loan. I'm assuming it's a 3-year renewal or a 5-year. Of course, I've never missed a payment, and the guy's like, we got to do title reports. So this is another loan that I have, not only that this line of credit that I have with this bank, but I have a loan with this bank that's in the tune of, I think, a couple $100,000, 7 houses, and they ask me to do a title report on each property. We're talking 7 properties, and I got to do a title report on those. Now, let me get this straight. Why? My first inclination was I was going to get frustrated. I've never missed a payment, always on time, turn in my financials, got insurance up the wazoo on them. Taxes are prepaid. I have life insurance, and they're asking for title reports several years later. And that's where this podcast came from. Wow. So I'm rookie with banks. Thought I knew everything about banks, but banks can do a lot of things. And so we're going to cover 4 points. Number 1, fees. You need to be aware of what fees banks are charging you, okay? 1 could be origination fee. It could be doc renewal fee, junk fee, fee in general. Now, I wouldn't, you need the money, so I wouldn't scrutinize banks as much, when you're just building a relationship. But you need to understand what those fees are. And those fees are pure profit for the bank. So you got to understand how the bank makes money. And how do they make money? Well, they make money writing loans. their main thrust of income is, of course, you would think it would be insurance. Nope, it is origination. And the interesting thing is that's where they charge their fees, origination fee. They can charge a doc preparation fee. They can charge whatever fee they think is necessary. And if you're not a savvy investor, you may not understand those fees, and you can just pay those fees. Now, you can negotiate fees when you build a relationship with the bank. I wouldn't come in there and the bank is offering this and you're saying that, and you got to kind of know what you're talking about. Number 2, delays. Man, I've lost deals waiting on a banker to get back with me to get final approval from somebody from somewhere. And if you know banks, you're dealing with the person that you're dealing with, the loan officer. And some people call loan officers salesmen, okay? But that loan officer has to get approval from his boss or underwriting or both or the board. And so there could be delays. So you need to know, and just like anything else, like you could say, I'm being delayed from the contractor, I'm being delayed in the traffic, whatever excuses you may have used before to slow roll somebody, bankers have that power as well. Especially if you have something on a contract and you need it closed by a certain time and you're in a pinch, and they may even create a fee for that. Bankers, you're listening to this podcast, I hope you're not, but that's number 2. So think about it when you're getting a loan, even when the banker says, hey, we're going to close by the 15th, everything's going to be great. And you're like, okay, good. You're dealing with the realtor, you're dealing with the seller, everything's going away. But then there's a delay in there. Make sure you have enough margin, enough room, and the banker is in control. But what I do, and I don't think nothing's wrong with this, I always proposition, I guess you would say, or contact or consider other banker options for every deal. The bigger the deal, the most important of the deal that I'm working on, I may have several bankers that I'm engaging and letting them know. I may send them the financials. I may send them the pro forma. I may let them know, knock on their door saying, hey, I'm buying this commercial property. It's worth this much. I got it under contract for this much. I'm looking for this type of financing. Is this something that you're willing to do? And, you know, at one time, I may have 2 bankers basically bidding against each other. They don't know that. I don't want to be disrespectful, but in my mind, it's for safety reasons. If that freaking punk banker slows down and does not, and that just happened to me recently, where I had 2 bankers excited, going to do this loan, give me verbal yeses, went through all the hula hoops, and then one of the bankers has a new underwriting department, convenient, and they finally got back to me approval, and they usually send you this thing called a term sheet, what they're willing to offer you. And so you need to know the lingo, term sheet. And by the time that Joker Bank got me back, the term sheet per se, I already had the deal funded, closed, and moved on. But it was still a safety net, and I still, had a relationship with that bank. And then when they finally, and I told them no, which was great power to say no, they want to still do business. It was a large loan, but hey, you got to move quickly. I'm a real estate investor, without being disrespectful. And that banker understood, and he was frustrated with his underwriting department. It wasn't him, is what he was telling me, but still, you got to understand delays, and I usually have a backup plan. A lot of creative real estate investors have a private money backup plan, or a line of credit backup plan, or in my case, 5 friends with $100. That's a backup plan. That's my original backup plan when I started as an entrepreneur. When I rented out roller rinks and start throwing parties, I was like, how much does it cost to rent the roller rink? And the guy this is back in the 90s or late 80s. And I don't remember. 92 is when I graduated. So somewhere around 94, to rent the roller rink for a Friday night was $200. And I was like, okay, what's the worst thing can happen? Can I get 10 friends that give me $20 to help me out to cover the cost. You might want to consider that in real estate investing too. Is there 3 friends that you know that you could call that has a network of private investors that could save the day on a deal because the bank backed out? Now, number 3, extra protection, and also known as, in my world, cross collateralization. Bankers are hustlers. They'll do a deal, get all the way to the bottom, and then, underwriting said that we need to collateralize or we need another piece of property. And I've seen this over and over again. Now, you can balk that, right? But if you have your margins in place, you could say no. And that was that last deal I was just explaining about. I had 2 bankers. One was in the running, doing very well, and the other one was kind of slow rolling me. And then after they turned it, and that was the first bank I really wanted to write a loan with. They've been courting me. I want to build a relationship with that bank. And then they took forever to get back with me. And then by the time they got back to me, they're like, well, we would like for you to refinance your other office building so you can get this. And I was like, I already had the money with the other bank without even cross collateralization. And just so you know, bankers are hustlers. They want extra protection. It doesn't matter if you're a savvy landlord. Some people just policy and procedure. Just like this other bank, they're going to do title reports on 7 properties. I almost might as well just refinance somewhere else. And, after I'm doing this podcast, I'm going to rethink this. And, I've never had a bank, 20 years I've been doing real estate investing. Hey, we're going to do title report. I'm thinking to myself, what are you worried about? Am I putting liens on property without you knowing? How is that possible? It's possible. Maybe if I'm doing like construction or something, I don't know. And 4th and final rant on bankers are hustlers. Ooh, man, my bankers, if they hear this, they're going to get off on me. Points. What is points? Well, when you get a loan, let's just say $100,000 loan, 1 point origination would be what? $1,000. That is pure profit for the bank. On top of that, they get arbitrage, which is the money on the insurance. Now, bankers have, luxury cars. No, I'm just playing. But they have utilities. They have servicing. They have envelopes. They have costs, internet, super protection. I get it, right? If you study banks, they're just like any other business. They're not high and mighty over you, but you gotta work with the banker, okay? But here's the thing that I've seen a new trend, that points are all over the place, or origination fees are all over the place. And you, as a awesome real estate investor, you need to be aware of what are other real estate investors paying for origination fee. And so I thought I was somebody at one time, and I was paying 1% origination fee before I got really into understanding banks and studying them, how they make money, how they work, how do they function, who am I dealing with, what's a senior vice president, what's a vice president, what's a junior vice president, how does it work, who's the CEO, blah, da. Well, I've been borrowing money for a long time, about 17, 18 years, and I've been paying 1% for a long time. And then one day, another sophisticated investor, of course, there's always someone that can trump you, says, he's getting a 0.5 point. I'm like, wow, that's a good savings. Now, I've noticed throughout the years that when the loan is large enough, like say 250,000, 500,000, points usually go down because the number is large, right? Because if you're trying to get a $50,000 loan, what's the origination fee on 1%? It's $500. Is that right? So, it's really not a lot of money. For the guy to drive over there and drop off the docks and, go through all that rigmarole and paperwork and hours to prepare and compliance, I get it. They got to make money. That's what origination fee is. But what I've noticed that some banks can charge all the way up to 5, 4, 3%, and they're getting it. And I realize, real estate investor, you need to be aware of what origination fees are, how you can negotiate those fees, and build a better relationship with your banker and ask them why. What I've heard through the grapevine is some real estate bankers are charging like 2 points or 3 points in the beginning to see if you're a rookie. I get it. I understand. But just be aware, you do need to know that the 4 things that I realized just the other day from bankers are hustlers. 1, fees. 2, delays. 3, extra protection, aka collateral for them. 4, points origination fee. Hey, if this was good for you and you learned something, you got one nugget, you extrapolated. I just wanted to say the word extrapolated at 5 a.m. in the morning. If this was good for you, let me know. If it want me to break off more banking information, if it was helpful, send me a text. Let me know on Facebook, and so I can grind this out even harder for my friends out there in the radio waves. My name is Stephen Van Kallenberg, the Savvy Landlord. Check out other episodes at thesavvyradioshow.com.
Thanks for listening to The Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.